Welcome back to my box van build. In this video I'm installing a diesel heater. So the one that I bought is an 8 kilowatt with an aluminum housing, and the brand is Biacle. And it would be like way more convenient to have a gasoline heater instead of a diesel heater. Then I could just run the fuel line into my fuel tank and not have to buy a separate fuel. But at the time that I was shopping for this, the gasoline powered ones were like way more expensive. So I got that. And then I learned after the fact that they make diesel heaters that also heat water. And I believe they're made for truckers, and you can pipe your engine coolant through it. So as you're sitting there parked in a really cold place, it'll keep your engine coolant temperature hot. But that would have been an awesome way to have hot water for a shower. And I even thought about a way to get one of those, pipe your engine coolant through it to keep your engine warm in a cold climate, and then also get like a plate heat exchanger and then pipe your water for your shower through that. So you could not only keep your engine warm, but also heat your water at the same time. And that would have been pretty cool. But I'm just gonna roll with this because I already bought it, and I bought it like a year ago, and I'm well beyond the return window for this thing. So it'll be fine. I'm not trying to get too complicated with this. There's a ton of information online about diesel heaters. Like there's forums, Facebook groups and everything. All kinds of like diagnostics information. People tell you what troubles they have with them and what to do, what not to do. And there's like hacks. People like pipe their exhaust through radiators and crap and like do all kinds of crazy stuff with these. But I'm just gonna install this in the back. I'm gonna pipe the vent like down towards the floor, straight into the van, blowing forward towards the cab. And that's it. I'm probably only gonna have one vent too. And I'm not using this fuel tank, like I mentioned, because I don't really like it. It's just it's like a milk jug. So, as I already showed you, I plan on using this jerry can. I went ahead and bought a whole separate pickup tube for this jerry can, and I can't even find it at the moment, which is sweet. But then I realized that the diesel heater came with one, so I didn't even really need to do that. But one thing I did see online is everybody has problems with the fuel line that comes with these things. Like it sucks, it disintegrates. So I will not be using the fuel line either. I'm going to go down to the auto parts store and get some actual good reinforced rubber fuel line. Since the diesel heater is going to be going through the floor for the exhaust and the combustion air intake, and my van, which is different than a regular van in the fact that it has a wood floor. I went and picked up this thing online on Amazon, I think. But it's basically just like a safety metal trim thing. Similar to what I piped my wood stove exhaust through the ceiling with. But basically it has just this metal ring here, which creates a barrier between the wood floor of the van and the stuff going in and out from the diesel heater. So what I'm gonna do is drill a massive freaking 5-inch hole in my floor and then install this trim plate with some silicone, some RTV or something. And then that's what I'll be doing to go through the floor. And I can't stand the smell of diesel exhaust. I just never liked that smell. And the exhaust on my van, the cutaway vans, because they don't have a rear spare tire underneath, the tailpipe actually comes out the driver's side. But the way that I built my van, the way that I sleep, my head is on the driver's side. So I'm planning on installing the heater on the passenger side, like over there, and the exhaust is going to kind of come out that way. And then the fuel line and the fuel pump is all going to be underneath the van, not inside at all. So if there's any leaks, it won't leak in the van. And those fuel pumps on these, they're like this little clicky thing, and people mention how annoying it is, and it keeps people up at night. So the first thing I'm going to do before I can do any of this is I need to finish actually building this under bed trunk garage area of my van. What I'm going to do is kind of wall off around the batteries and the fuel, or the water tank back here, and pretty much enclose this whole area off from the rest of the van, and then just insulate those areas and that wall right there that I put in. And I have just like a little bit of foam board left, and I'm really not trying to buy any more, so I'm gonna just kind of piece it all together with the scraps that I have, and hopefully there's enough. I put some ratatan over this opening right here, just to keep stuff and or my cat from getting into this little void that I'm creating here. I don't have to do that on this side for the water tank, but now that I am building a wall around it, I can get rid of this ugly orange strap that I put there. And the reason I put these little wood strips around the sides is because I'm out of staples. Alright, this is all the foam board I got. And it's going to look like a jigsaw puzzle, but I'm going to make it work. And there's 2 different thicknesses. So, I'm trying to use every bit of the materials I bought for this van. And I'm sick of buying things, so... So here's all the parts that you get with your Backle diesel heater. And I'm not using this fuel line, like I said, because, I don't know, it's trash apparently. You do get 2 vents and a T, so I'm going to have 2 of them. I'll just kind of put them on either side of my bulkhead, that piece of plywood under the bed. And I'll have them both pointed forward, and they kind of angle down like that, so that's kind of cool. So the hot air will blow down at the non-insulated floor and keep everything nice and warm. And then this is your combustion air intake, which has to go outside of the vehicle. And then here's your exhaust and the little muffler. And here's the little ticky-tacky fuel pump. And here's the controller. It also has a tiny little remote that you saw me Velcro to the wall back by my bed. And my plan for this guy is to also pretty much Velcro it to the plexiglass on the command center, assuming that the wires reach. But looking at it now, it's literally just an on and off switch, like a thermostat. It's 2 wires, 3 wires. So, I mean, I could extend that if I wanted to. And I am going to power the diesel heater on a relay, so I'll have a switched relay to give it the main power directly off the fuse box, and I'm going to run 12 gauge wire over to it. I think that's 14, but people have told me, at least I've seen in the comments, to make sure you give your diesel heater a good power source. Because they can have ignition issues if the glow plug in it isn't getting enough juice. So that's kind of the plan there. I just need to figure out exactly where I'm going to mount this so that the exhaust reaches kind of toward the outside of the van, so it's not dumping any exhaust where I'll like smell it in the van. And then also I need the ducts to reach, which I think these are like extendables. So that's not really going to be an issue at all. So here's a little exploded view of what's in the diesel heater. So you have air inlet, a fan, and then your glow plug, combustion chamber, which is just going to be a tube with fire in it. And then you have your heating zone, which is the heat exchanger, which is where the fire goes through one compartment and the air blows over it. You know, the air blows over these fins that are heated internally by the flame, and then it blows hot air out the end. It's pretty straightforward on how it works internally. So it's like, how do you hook it up? Okay, so air inlet is actually this side, which looks like, yeah, it just sucks air in right there. I don't need to duct that. So, and then outlet, I can either do a single or a T, and combustion air intake comes in from the bottom under the van, exhaust out. Yeah, it's really not that complicated. So after thinking this through a little bit, which is always an uncomfortable thing for me, I decided to drill a couple of holes in those compartments that I just made. Now, the battery area and the water tank area are essentially the return air duct for the diesel heater. Because if I had it all completely sealed up back here, it would starve the heater of air. And I think that's gonna just make it work a little bit better, because it will be pulling the warmer air from the heated portion of the van past the battery and water tank. You know, I don't know. So the next step is to take the same hole saw, which is the correct size for the duct for the diesel heater, and drill a couple of holes in the front here where I want the vents to go. And then I'm going to plumb up the vents and then decide where to put the heater. I have to get under the van and figure out where in the floor I can drill a huge hole for the exhaust and stuff to come out. So I suppose I should see like how much this duct actually expands, so I know my limits on placement here. Yeah, it doesn't come apart very much. I could get crazy and just go buy some PVC, but also I think this plastic tee, if it were just right off the heater and all the heat was like deadheading right onto this thing, it might, I don't know how much heat this little plastic tee can handle, honestly. I guess we'll find out. I was also looking at the hardware that they give you with this, and none of the screws will be able to mount this to the van and still let you put this grill on. I'm just going to use some like drywall screws or something, because they have more of a flat head. There's a bunch of these, like 5/16 hex head, but they stick out so much you would never be able to get this grill on. So alright, so looking at it, pretty much anywhere in front of where the wheel tubs end, I can mount the heater. So left to right doesn't matter. That's all real estate right there. Also, I hate this giant muffler. I want to replace it with something like more oval shaped that won't hang down so low. So now I'm thinking more like this. It's going to be kind of towards the back and centered. I have these two totes which would fit on either side. So I'll have good storage. I'll have really good access to the heater for when it breaks. And then I'll be able to have my two ducts and there'll be a significant space between the output of the heater and that plastic T. And then I'll be able to run the exhaust more towards the back corner of the vehicle. This is kind of the plan, I think. Kind of just right there in the middle towards the back, because there's a crossbar on the floor right at the end of the wheel tubs, and this will make installation a lot easier, because now I'm like right there. I've got all this wide open space. Otherwise, I'm working like above the muffler up there. And I knew this heater would really like mess up my cargo area as far as what I can put back here. But I'm gonna start by mounting the 2 vent holes, kind of work my way towards the heater, and then drill a giant hole in the floor. Well, my bin clear. Oh yeah. Plenty of room. I'm gonna do 4 inches off the floor and 3 inches in center. Because I like the way that looks. No turning back now. These are like literally the tiniest DeWalt battery you can get. They're only 1.5 amp hour. They make like up to 10, I think. I'll just have to finish the cuts from the other side. I did 1.5 foam here. Yeah, I could have put them up top here, but I think I'll be bumping into them less if they're down by the floor. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the foam a little bit more so I have room to put duct in it. So I'm doing the double hole saw trick. My 3.5 has like no teeth on it, but I only have 4 clamps that came with the diesel heater. I have more clamps in the shop, but I think where the duct goes into the grills, I'm just gonna use like foil tape or something. So I was just going to cut this duct right in half, but I decided against that because I don't know how much shorter it's going to get after I put a bend in it. And then also these vents aren't actually centered because my kitchen cabinet's deeper than my desk. But it's really obvious where center is back here because of the line on the vinyl. Okay. I will cut this one right here. This stuff's weird. With regular flex duct, you have like a metal wire that is what the coil is, but this is just all aluminum, and it's kind of like, it's just weird. something I've never worked with before. Okay. Can I make 2 out of 1? No. Definitely can't. So this is going to end up being just extra, because after I put a bin in this other side, the piece I cut off will be longer, and that's what I'll use to go to the heater. It kind of like shrinks itself back down. Like I'll pull it apart and then it kind of compresses. So these ended up being the same, almost the same length. Oh well, whatever. And I'm using these tiny number 6 by 3/4 screws because I think they'll make it where I can put the grills on and not, like, the head won't interfere. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, I think it's cool. You can, like, turn them. Like that one, I might rotate a little bit towards the middle. This will be a piece of cake, really, because that fits perfectly over them. I mean, really, I could get some, like, butyl tape or something and just stick it in there, like air duct putty stuff, you know, or just, like, caulk it, you know. But we'll do the foil tape for now, because that's what I got. Yeah, it worked pretty good. It just, like, totally adhered itself. It's on there. There. We have ductage. I don't know how well this is going to seal with this clamp. Yeah, I can still see daylight in there. Might foil tape this part too, really. That would be, like, better. Boing. All right. I think before I install the last piece of duct, it's finally time for the scary part, which is going to be drilling a giant hole in the floor of the van. And I am pretty nervous about doing that. Because, you know, I pretty much built this whole van without cutting any major holes in it. I mean, it would be easy to just undo all of this and sell it again as a regular old box van. Alright, so now I gotta mark out where to drill massive hole in the van. I want it centered. I gotta make sure my front and back is gonna be okay. I'm gonna probably measure under the van. I never showed you guys this, but if you buy one of these U-Hauls, you need to seal right there, like the very back corners of it, because it's just open. There's like an open space up in there. So to keep like water, if you're driving through rain, or, you know, mice, hornets, whatever, you gotta seal them back corners right there. So just so you know. And this is where the latch for the roll-up door was. If you saw in my video where I did all that, I spot welded a plate of steel around that, and then I seam sealered it. This is actually pretty scary, honestly. And I only have a 6-inch hole saw because this is 5.5. So I have a 5 and a 6. So I'm going with the 6, which is good because it'll just keep the wood away, a little further away from the metal, which is, you know, whatever. And I'm hoping this doesn't get so hot that it like melts this vinyl floor, but I don't think it will, actually. I think it'll be just fine. From bumping the floor, we have 16. Oh yeah. So pretty much where I got it should be good. So I'm gonna draw a line with a Sharpie. And this is gonna be where I drill my hole. And it's actually centered on the, like the tiles, so to say, of the vinyl floor. So I don't know if my DeWalt drill's up for the task. This is pretty serious. Yeah, I don't know if I can even do this with this drill. This is pretty violent. All right. I have a 6-inch hole in my van. That's okay. Yep. Seems excessive to drill such a giant hole for this heater, but I don't know. I think this trim thing that I bought's a good idea, because with this being wood, you know, it's safer this way. I'm gonna go underneath, center it in the hole, and then Sharpie these 4 holes to mount the plate with. And then I'm gonna mount the plate, but I'm gonna use some like black RTV or some butyl tape or something. All right, that's perfect. Just gonna Sharpie these holes. I'm all out of butyl tape. I don't remember what I used the rest of it on, but for this, I'm going to use Permatex Black. It's just automotive RTV silicone, but it's heat resistant, and it'll be fine. I'm going to goop it around the edge of the plywood here, and then just do a bead along the top of the hole. And that should seal it up just fine. And keep the wood from rotting. I still need to finish like undercoating and painting the bottom of the van, and I plan on doing all that at the same time I do all the suspension and all of that stuff, all the mechanical goodness. But I do plan on pretty much cleaning and recoating the entire underside of the van. And I plan on just using tractor paint because that's what I can afford. If you've ever bought truck bed liner or undercoating, it's extremely expensive and you go through it very fast. Just so you know. It is better, but it's expensive. Around the top. This is also going to totally glue this plate on. I will not be able to get this off. The diesel heater you can remove because it just, you unbolt it from the plate, but make sure I put this on the right way. Okay, so this is the back. Line up my holes, my dots that I Sharpied. Smush. And I'm gonna go ahead and use some stainless wood screws to screw it on with. It came with screws and stuff, but they are made for metal. They're like self-tappers. Like if you were to install this in a normal van, you know. All right, doing some number 10 by 1s. Gonna get a couple in before I go all the way. so it doesn't move on me. There we go. Perfect. All right. I feel good about this. So this is just like silicone, you know, and that's the fuel line, air intake, exhaust. So I'm gonna go ahead and just set this in there and go underneath and bolt it on. So here's an issue. The kit didn't come with anything for this hole. And I'm assuming that hole is so you can run the wire down to the fuel pump. But there's like no grommet or anything. The plate that the heater actually came with has that same, this cutout here. Cause like water and shit's definitely gonna get through there. Not really, but I don't like it. This is just the air intake. So I don't have to worry about like heat right here. So what I'm thinking is after I get the fuel pump mounted and installed and run the wire to it, I will just silicone that. But yeah, that's interesting design, and it's pretty universal because all the diesel heater plates have that same deal right there. And it didn't say anywhere in the book about that, so. I also don't like how sharp this is. I wonder if it's made for you can run the fuel line through it as well. Okay, here's a piece of vacuum tubing. I mean, if I had an actual grommet, that would be nice, but we can do this. Same concept. Though it might be too big now for this opening. Nope, it works. That'll work. Works really well, actually. That's pretty nice. There. Can you see that? Just made a nice little protective grommet for that. Now we should be able to mount the heater. And then yeah, nice. And we'll figure out the wiring later. So I will silicone that. I'm gonna bolt this on first, and I guess I'll just have all the fuel pump wire under the van. I can just zip tie it up if I have excess, which I will. It's like super long, you know. But that'll do. So I'm gonna bolt it on. It's 10 millimeter. And we'll move on to, I guess, mounting the fuel tanks. All right, I'm putting together my jerry can mounts. I did one off camera, so I won't look like a total idiot. These are pretty simple, but what's nice about them is you can padlock them so no one steals your gas. Or whatever you fill your jerry can with, you know. People had concerns about me doing this. You know, are they not DOT approved, or is this horribly dangerous? I think the worst that'll happen is I get pulled over because of it. And then I just say, I'm from Nebraska. What do you mean? I don't know nothing. And people suggested I put them on the back instead of the side. But I don't want to do that because that makes me a Pinto. I actually got the idea, well, kinda got the idea from a YouTuber who doesn't really post very often, but she made a video of her mounting a jerry can to the back of her van and then putting a standpipe in it and plumbing up her diesel heater to it. And she's a girl who lives in a van with her cat. We're kind of the same age too, I think. But I looked her up and she had an Etsy store and she makes like wood carvings. And I ended up buying her coffee scoop. It's pretty nice. It's Andy Rose is her YouTube channel, and she's on Instagram too. But she doesn't really post very often, but I just think this is way better than the plastic crappy fuel tank that comes with the diesel heater. And it's got a lot more capacity. But I would assume with my 8 kilowatt diesel heater, if I ran that thing like all night long because it was a really cold place, I was somewhere cold in the winter, I would expect to use maybe a gallon of fuel every night or something. So with the 5-gallon tank, or 20 liter, you probably get by a week. And I did find my other standpipe that I bought. I mean, I don't see one being any better than the other. And then the fuel filter that came with the diesel heater is pathetic. I can see this just leaking all over the place. It's just a strainer, like a pump strainer. So I do think when I go buy my fuel line today or tomorrow, I'm gonna pick up an actual like metal fuel filter, like for a car, you know. I don't know if diesel, you want a different one, like a more coarse like this. Is just basically a strainer, which is designed to, I think, so you can take it apart and clean it. But it's really cheesy. I don't see this not breaking, so. All right, I'm gonna mount these to the sides of the van, and I've decided I'm gonna do one on each side. And I'm gonna do the one that I put the standpipe in for the diesel tank on the driver's side, so I can fill up at a gas station without moving the van if I find a pump that has diesel and gasoline. I'm gonna have those on the driver's side because this won't really be removable without disconnecting the fuel line. And then the other tank, the other jerry can, is just gonna be spare fuel for my van. And I'm gonna put that on the passenger side because I'll just be able to remove that and fill it up, and really shouldn't, hopefully not ever need that, but it'd be good to have if I'm in the middle of nowhere and I can't quite make it to a gas station. So on the other side, it's not like right on the snake, which is a little better, but, and I need to make sure I do it high enough where I can actually get to the other side of the bolt. If I do it right here, I'm lined up with the wall stud. So I believe I will do that. That would be smart. So the van is actually pretty level. Just slightly tilted down toward the end of the shop. So if I line the bubble up right there. Actually, we're gonna go center right there. I mean, I could go like all full overlander kind of guy and like mount shovels and ladders and recovery boards and shit to the van. I do have shovel mounts, but I was gonna put one on top of the rear trunk. But I don't know if I'm gonna do all that. I don't really need a whole shovel. I have my little folding camping shovel. Uh-oh, I don't see daylight. Why don't I see daylight? What? Oh, there's a board there. Okay. The board that I put for the back of the water tank is right there. There's daylight. Question is, are they long enough? Because these are 2.5s. They are not going to be long enough by the time I put the jerry can mount on. So back to the drawing board, we need some 3s. Well, I'm back, and it's 6:15 now. It's also day 2 of this video. I just wore the same shirt, hoping you wouldn't notice. So I went to Lowe's, and I got my bolts. And then I went to Walmart and got oil, because they're next to each other. And it's like 27 bucks for a 5-quart jug, but it's like $9 for just a single quart. And you need 6 quarts for an LS. So I just got 2 jugs, and now I just need 2 more quarts to do 2 oil changes. And I got a filter. And then I got in the Zone, AutoZone, because also right next to all those other places. And I got the good stuff. This is 3/16 braided rubber fuel line. The problem is they had this much. That was it. Like 4 feet. And this 4 feet cost me 20 bucks. So then I got to thinking again. I got all the brake line in the world because I live in the Midwest. So I'm fixing to run some hard steel line all the way from the diesel heater to the jerry can. And then I'll just put a little bit of this on each end to connect it together. And then I got to thinking again about that cheesy little fuel filter that's definitely gonna leak or break. And I knew that would be way too much to ask of the AutoZone dude. But I was like, what if I get a nice steel in like fuel filter in line, since I'm running this, and like flare the ends and put threaded fittings on it and have just a proper nice fuel filter that will never break. But diesel fuel filters are a little different. It's more like a strainer. So if I put a regular like car fuel filter, it'll just plug up. So I got on Amazon briefly and was looking at them, and they make lots of diesel fuel filters in 3/16, and they're made for diesel heaters, but they're all plastic. Now I'm coming up with all these crazy wild ideas to figure out a way to get a like actual diesel fuel filter mount with a water separator and all of that on there for like, I don't know, a lawnmower or a bobcat or some small vehicle like that. So I'll overcomplicate that some other day, but for now I think I'm just going to put provisions in my inline and just install that cheap crappy one for now, and then I can upgrade it later on, or just buy a couple more crappy plastic ones on Amazon, and then when it leaks and breaks and all that, I can just swap it out real quick. But so yeah, I'm gonna run this 3/16 hard steel line from the diesel heater along the back of the van over to where the jerry can is, have it come up, and then have just a little bit of rubber between on each end. That way I can still remove either component. I got clamps, and I'm gonna flare the ends of the steel line so the rubber part can't slide off. I mean, it wouldn't, but you know. But yeah, this is the stuff to get if you're doing this, rather than the cheesy see-through stuff that they come with. So just so you know. And you can buy that cheesy see-through crap for weed whackers and little two-stroke things. And if you have a weed whacker that doesn't run, it's usually that or the diaphragm in the carburetor that you need to replace. So just so you know. So I went with some 3.5s. I could have probably got away with 3, but it would have been pushing it. So I do need to get some sealant around these holes. I'm all out of seam sealer. Black RTV wouldn't look the best, but I don't think you'd really see it anyway because it's going to be behind the black jerry can mount. So that's the plan. Oh no, making a mess. I should have inserted the bolts first, because now I'm going to have a goop on the end of the threads, but that's okay, I'm used to it. Yep, found it. That was easy. My bolt's too short, isn't it? Yep. Sure is, by a lot. Great. Sweet. It'd be fine if some guy didn't put a 2x4 right here. So for today, we're just gonna have 2 bolts, and then I'm gonna get some much longer ones for the bottom 2. But that's okay. I can keep making progress. I'll get the other side installed, run my fuel line, start thinking about wiring. So I just kept cranking on this one till it got tight. Just kind of pulled its way through the foam. I put the other 2 bolts in just so it would move the silicone out of the way. because that'll be hard as a rock in about an hour, and you know. Kinda moves around more than I want it to. That's gonna be pretty annoying. Might have to get some like rubber behind it. Does anybody else have OCD about washers and you always put the top of the stamping facing out? It just looks better that way. Well, good morning. It's Monday, Memorial Day. I stopped at Menards on the way here, and I got longer bolts for over there, and I picked up a 2-pack of key-to-like weather-resistant padlocks. And I got on Amazon this morning, and I ordered a fuel filter / moisture separator for diesel heaters. It's for those like name brand actual ones like Webasto or Aparco or whatever. So that should be coming, I think, tomorrow. And I'm gonna install that and the fuel pump under the van. And because that thing has like a clear plastic bowl on it, I'm going to have to build some sort of shield around both of those items so they don't get damaged by rocks or debris or whatever. All right, I'm going to install the pickup tube or stand pipe or whatever it's called on the jerry tank, and I'm going to put it right here because that's really the only logical place to put it. And I have 2 of them here. I bought this one, and this one came with the diesel heater, and I was looking at the differences between the 2. So this one, you have a flange, rubber gasket. You just drill like a 7/16 or so hole in the can, and then you just screw this flange on, and then you thread the tube into that, and it has a little like brass bushing for that, which would be the easier of the 2 to install. This one here, I would have to drill about a 1-inch hole, and the way that it's designed, the rubber gasket actually goes on the inside of the can, and then you have this washer on the top, and then a big nut that way. So this one here seems like it would be less prone to leaking, but this one here seems like it would be a lot easier to install. And there's one thing I know for sure, is when you're drilling a hole in something, you can always make the hole bigger, but you can't make it smaller. So what I'm going to do is install this one, and if I notice that the top of my jerry can is always greasy, then I'll know that this is not really a good seal, and then I can always drill the hole out bigger and switch over to this one. So all I'm going to do is sort of locate it over here, and then mark out where I want to drill the large hole. Once that's done, I can cut this to the length that I need it to be, and kind of get it all just mounted and installed. And there's really not much more else to it. I could put it on the back side, like there or something, and then when the tube goes in, I could just put another bend in it, you know, like 90 it, and have it that way, so you don't really see anything from when you're looking at it, but I think right here would be just the most logical place to put it. And also this one that came with the diesel heater has a much bigger, like there's more pipe coming off of the top of it, and this one does not, and I like this better. The plan is to have just a short bit of rubber between this and the hard line that I'm installing on the van, just to make this removable at any point. So I don't really need to mark these holes because I'm just gonna run self-tappers into them straight through the rubber. But now I've centered, kind of marked center here where I think I want it anyway. And I'm gonna drill that out. Hope I don't ruin it. This was a $70 jerry can. I'm gonna start with the small bit though, make a pilot hole. Air came hissing out of it when I did that. I've actually decided to use a step bit and I'm magnetizing it. That way, in theory, the metal shavings will stick to the bit and not fall in the can. We'll see though. You can also just like put grease on your bit and stuff. I'm not too concerned because I have a strainer, but 3/16 fuel line or 3/16 line is easy to plug. See that? Working pretty good. You can kind of clean it off with the magnet. Some shavings did get in there. Kind of just fell in the hole as soon as I should have put some grease around that. That's a good way to do that. Okay. My hole is big enough, so I'm done with that. Can also probably get my magnet stick, my smaller one, just kind of stick it in there. So I'll just put this in here. And just scratch all the protective coating off. There we go. Now we don't hear nothing rattling around in there. That's good. Okay, so we want it to go all the way to the bottom, like any pickup tube. It doesn't need to like go straight down and be hacked right off. It could kind of have a little bit of a bendy do to it, which would be fine. Looks like it's about to rain. Other than the 1 week of 90s when I first moved into my van, it has been a really mild spring. All right. And then to deburr it, I just take a nail, kind of go like that, and then file it. That'll work. All right, now put this put this on there. Actually, I'll just go ahead and yeah, it's a nice little washer. It's like copper, but it's got rubber on either side. It's pretty sweet. See, I don't want it to bottom out, because then it'll... There. That should be good. This is hard to believe, but these are actually 5/16. Crazy. Oh yeah, look at that. We're gonna go right here. We're gonna have it kind of come up right behind this flange. This is just regular steel brake line. You can get like, I have copper too, but I'm just gonna roll with this. If it's good enough for brake fluid, it's definitely good enough for diesel fuel. I mean, brake fluid's like one of the most corrosive frickin' things. And how high up do we want to go? How much rubber line do we want? I think I want to go about like here. I do this without kinking it. There we go. I got these plastic coax clamp. So what I can do is basically this. Kind of the idea, you know? And now I can decide, since I made it a little long, I could just friggin' have the shortest little bit of line coming off of there. But I think I want it rubber and have it go down to about here. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off right here. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is put a flare on it. And what that's going to do is make it so the rubber line does not come off. It won't be able to slide off after putting a hose clamp on it. And there's 3 ways to flare a tube that I'm familiar with. There's probably more than 3, but there's a single flare, a bubble flare, and then a double flare, where you do a single flare, or you do a like a bubble flare and then you single flare it. This is how you set your flare depth. You just take the anvil, kind of put them together like that. I just have like the auto parts store flaring tool for brake line. I also have a really nice like Ritchie Yellow Jacket one that I use for installing air conditioners for people. But there are much better tools than what I got, but this is what I got, so. But living in a rust-prone area, I've had to replace a lot of brake lines on cars. On my Buick, I've replaced all the fuel and brake lines under the whole car, like right after I got it. Sometimes I WD-40 this too, just to help it. Kind of helps to lube it up, you know. But this is such a tiny little operation here, we don't need to do all that. So I just made what's called a bubble flare, which really is probably good enough for what I'm doing here. We're just trying to make a bump so the hose clamp won't slide off, you know. We're not actually making this where it'll go into a threaded fitting. There's also swagging, where you actually expand the tube to a larger size so another tube can fit inside of it. See that? Bubble flare. All right, now that we've done that, this is pretty much ready to hook up to the jerry can. We'll start by putting one on here. I still can't get over how many of my viewers from the UK told me what these are called over there when I did my plumbing video. These are just hose clamps, screw clamps, worm clamps. But over there, they're called Jubilee clamps. There we go. Yep, so that'll never come off. I mean, theoretically. I do intend on getting some like rubber to shim this out so it sits a little better in this. So my phone died and I had to charge it, and I didn't bring my GoPros today, but here's what I got. Fuel line coming in under the jerry can, a couple of straps, and then I have it running along this support, utilizing the same zip tie locations for the U-Haul for the tail lights and stuff. And then it comes over here and just kind of dead ends right there. I put a bubble flare on it. And that is where the filter is going to go. The water filter, or water separator and fuel filter. And then to the left of that, we have the fuel pump. In the manual, they encourage you to mount the pump at greater than 45-degree angle, 45 to 90, and that makes it pump better. They don't want it mounted horizontally like that. But they only give you a one-hole mounting strap, so that's sweet. But what I'm going to do is mount that water or oil filter water separator right here. This is at the back of the van, see? And this is the trailer wiring. And then I'll run a rubber hose from the inlet of the pump to the filter, and then one from the hard line to that. And then I did get lazy and just run rubber hose up to the diesel heater. And then that's the air intake. And we just got it zip tied for now. Kind of up and out of the way. And then I put split loom on the wiring for the fuel pump just to protect it. So all I got left now is the exhaust. And I'm going to have that go that way towards the passenger side of the van. Alright, this is the best I could do for now. I wanted to extend the exhaust further towards the side of the van, but that's as long as it comes with. And I built a golf cart and a mini bike, and I have a bunch of 1-inch exhaust, but this is smaller. So I got it mounted right there, and I mounted the muffler horizontally so don't hang down as far. But I'll roll with this for now and see, see how it does. If I end up smelling the exhaust, I'll figure something else out. But I ended up drilling through and putting a 1/4 bolt there with a lock nut on the back. And until I get that fuel filter tomorrow, I'm pretty much have done all I can under here. I wanted to put this somewhere better so it won't get clogged with dirt, but I'll just have to keep an eye on it. I am going to have an onboard air compressor so I can blast at it if I ever need to. It's just basically a screen and a canister is all it is. And I thought about using my plumber strap and mounting it up there, but I ended up just zip tying it, which, I mean, there's really nothing to this. It's just a little plastic cheap thing and aluminum foil tube. So that'll be fine for now. So on the wiring harness here, it connects right here, and you've got your fuel pump wire, the wires going into the heater, and then coming out you have your 3-wire for your controller, and then your power. And they only gave you this much ground. You're supposed to just ground it wherever you install the heater. And then the main power wire is significantly longer, has a 20 amp inline fuse, and I believe this is 14 gauge. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and snip it right off where the ground ends. And I'm not going to use this. And then from here, I'm going to run 12 gauge wire up to this, over to my power system. And then I'm going to try to get this all the way to where I plan on putting the controller for this thing. And if it doesn't reach, I will dissect this and extend the wires. It's just 3 wires. What I'm going to do is run it in some split loom, kind of up to the front here, and then up this corner, and I cut a little hole in my foam where the rest of my wires are, running along the front of the bed, and then I'll just have them go over that way. So I'm just going to probably butt connector some 12 gauge onto this, get it all in some split loom and into the other side of the van. And I'll show you that when I'm done here in a minute. It's Wednesday night, go figure. I got the part. Check this thing out. This is it. It's a fuel filter and water separator. And the top of it is actually aluminum. And then it's got this plastic cup, which is pretty decent quality. I'm impressed with it. Little brass strainer. So if you've ever made pasta and you put oil in your water so your noodles don't stick together, or if you've ever worked on a car with a bad head gasket, you know that oil floats on top of water, and that's how this works. if you have water in your fuel, it'll accumulate in the bottom of this cup here. And then you can just crank this little drain open and drain that out, and that'll keep water from getting into your heater and, you know, making it, I don't know, not light or soot up or throw an error code or whatever. So I'm going to install this, and then I'll be able to put diesel in my jerry can. And I'm only going to get like a gallon because it's almost June. I'm not really going to need heat till this fall, but I'll put enough in there to be able to run the heater several times and make sure everything works. And this is also great for if you are going to just have fuel sitting in the system for months. You know, that's when water would accumulate, I'd assume. It also came with 2 little chunks of pretty decent actual reinforced braided rubber fuel line, like I bought from the auto parts store, and some clamps, which are nice, decent quality little clamps. So I'm pretty impressed so far with this little thing. It's yeah, good quality part. And it's the perfect solution for what I was trying to do here. I'll put a link to it in the description to this video, as well as that metal trim thing that I installed the heater with, just so you can, if you're interested in doing something similar here. So I'm not totally in love with the way that I did these wires for my panel fans. I just don't like the tape. And I really don't like this little bit here, because the wire just looks like crap. That's what I was thinking. I think that looks pretty good right there. And that'll cover up at least some of that. And then what I'll do is run the wire for this. I'm going to have to drill a hole in the plexiglass, but I'm going to run the wire along with this wire over here, and then I might put it all in some split loom, and then instead of the tape I might drill several holes and then run 832s through and use 1-hole straps and hold that all up. So I'm gonna probably drill holes in my plexiglass, but I think the the heater controller looks really good right there, because it's kind of the same size as that fan control, and this fan control is just kind of in the middle of nowhere, so it looks kind of out of place and odd like that. So that's kind of the idea. And because I'm putting it on the plexiglass, I have to run the wire to the left so the whole contraption will hinge open properly. So I will have to extend this wire quite a bit. So hopefully it still works well, because this is pretty thin wire. That's probably, I don't know, 18, 20. Probably about 18 gauge. But what I'll do is just extend it over this way, have it come down. I'm also going to have this switch right here is going to be the on-off for the power for the diesel heater. And then I'll run that down, and then we're going to have a relay on the wall down here. There's the wire I ran to the heater. It's just chilling there. It's 12 gauge. And then the control is only this long. Like, the best I could have done with this is if I put it over here. I don't like that though. That would look terrible. I want all the controls for the whole van on this panel. So that's the idea. That's what I'm gonna do. Another thing that I'm considering too is I have a 5-pack of these black cord clips. The reason I didn't use them on this though is because the peel and sticky part of it is white. I don't want like white squares, you know. But what I thought of just now is this 3M mounting tape I got is gray, which might not look as bad as the white. So I could, instead of drilling holes and using 1-hole straps and split loom, I could just get the wire kind of neatly together and then have some of these cord clips. I don't know what would look worse. I guess I could try the cord clips first because that's undoable. Alright, here's what I came up with. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn better. The only tape is now up here for the actual fans. Then I got these cord clips, and then I did split loom, and I did just those same cord clips, but then I used zip ties to hold the split loom on. And then I still have to do all of this, but I got the wires ran over here. There's a whole bunch of it. I have to like run it over and trim it and route it and all that. Next I'm going to do the switch for the diesel heater power. And yeah, it looks way better. There's just like little gray squares now instead of all that tape. I think it looks better. I could go get more of them cord clips and do the fan wires too, or super glue the fan wire on. I thought about doing that too. That would ruin the plexiglass, but yeah, we're getting there. It's very time consuming, this wiring. If you remember when I did the video of that, I just couldn't even film it. It just took so damn long, but it's coming together. I just spent like 5 minutes peeling this tape off. This stuff is, I'm pretty sure it was gaff tape that they put on here, but oh my god, that was a pain in the butt. I'm gonna connect, I'm gonna run the power and this through some conduit, some split loom, and just run it along with the rest of my stuff. I'm not gonna try taking that conduit apart and getting it in there. That's already packed full as it is. So I'm just gonna have another piece of conduit running parallel with that one over to this mess that I need to actually clean up. And I just need to finish wiring this fan, honestly. It's kind of a mess right now, but getting there soon. Alright, all the wires coming off of the heater, running in this conduit along over to this giant mess. Please pardon my mess. I will clean up my wiring before I'm done with this thing. But I went ahead and wired up the water pump and the diesel heater. That's what these two relays are. I'll kind of try to explain what's going on here. So coming out of this conduit is the wires running to the diesel heater. Here we have the power, these 12 gauge wires. There's the ground running up to the ground in the fuse block. And here's the power to the heater running off of the relay. These are 5-pin relays. This is the normally open contact. And then these yellow ones are the normally closed, which I won't be using. And then, this is such a mess. Coming down off the fuse block is this 12 gauge ground, and then I have it just giving grounds to the relays. And then coming up over here, this is running up to the switch for the diesel heater. The switch is getting its power from the same place. I just double tapped. And then the other side of the switch is going into the trigger to the relay. And then this one's for my water pump. I did the same thing. I just haven't wired up the switch yet. So, and then these 3 wires are the, not that one, sorry. These 3 wires are the running up to the controller for the diesel heater, which is up here. And then I have here the fuse that was in the diesel heater wire. I'm going to go ahead and pop it in here. And then, if I did everything correctly, I should be able to hit this switch and turn on the power to the diesel heater. Voila. Voila. Do you say voila or voila? I don't know. It works. So now I need to prime the fuel lines somehow, because we're still dry under here. So, I mean, the pump ain't gonna prime if it's completely dry. I mean, it might, but... Okay, so there's an actual manual fuel pumping mode. Figured it out. We're on manual pumping mode. This thing's going to town down here. I should have just did this to begin with. All right. Okay. On. Let's see what happens. I think it's actually working. Oh yeah. Ha! It's working! Yes! Oh, it kind of smells like a kerosene camping heat, like a shop heater. Oh my god, I have heat. I'm so happy. It's really pumping out heat now. This is nice. I can't get it to switch to Fahrenheit. I guess I'm gonna have to just learn the temperatures of the rest of the world. It's supposed to be able to just press and hold up and down while it's displaying temperature data. But when I do that, let's see. See? Press and hold. It just does that. Maybe if I keep holding. No. I don't know. I'll tinker with it. Either way, it's putting out heat and it works. Also, I'm parked inside the shop. I probably shouldn't run this a whole lot. You know, exhaust and whatnot. Well, sweet. I mean, I can tell the temperature of the van from there, but this is awesome. It doesn't smell anything like a diesel truck either. Like, it's not what I was expecting. It's more like a kerosene heater. Okay, so I got two pretty economical sources of heat. That diesel fuel was $3.24 a gallon, and I won't need it again, like I said, till this fall. So I'll get a good idea of like how quickly I burn through it and stuff when I actually go to use it regularly. And if I don't want to deal with that, firewood is free if you can find it. And if all else fails, my brother actually hooked me up with an authentic Hudson Bay wool point blanket. So I'm never going to be too cold. Am I going to be too hot? We'll see. I don't have AC. I set my sights pretty high for this last weekend, Memorial Weekend. I thought I was going to get my diesel heater done and my shower, and it ended up taking me 4 days to get the diesel heater done. And a lot of that was I still had to finish like the whole underbed area, which took a whole day. And I ended up ordering that better fuel filter, which I'm glad I did. I think that was a smart move there. So yeah, it is what it is. It is 10 after midnight on Thursday now, and I have to meet a plumber at my work at 8 a.m. and I still need to drive across town and shower. And at 11 a.m. I am having an interview with my potential replacement at work. I've been very transparent with my boss about my plans, and I'm going to hire and train a guy to replace me. And then about a month from now, I have the option to either keep working or just do whatever I want. So we're getting there. And that's a huge burden off of my shoulders, being responsible for properties. My stress level is going to go way down. And I'm looking forward to kind of transitioning away from my job and more towards making videos for you guys. So of course I have financial goals as well. I gotta have money to hit the road. But the next video was going to be a complete finishing the plumbing, like getting the shower done and installing the gray tank. But after seeing how much progress I'm really able to do in a week with this one, I will definitely at least get the shower done in the next video. And then the gray tank might be a video of its own. I'd like to get it all done, but we'll see. I can't promise you nothing here. And then after that is the cab, which I actually have been working on. I was kind of simultaneously filming 2 videos at the same time this past weekend. But anyway, I am sorry I missed you guys last week. That's just, life gets in the way sometimes. I've said it many times, and I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but when you work a full-time job and you have lots of other obligations, trying to build a van and make YouTube videos every week, sometimes it just doesn't work out. But we're getting there, like I said. I'm very close to the big day that I've been dreaming of for 3 years now. So I would like to say a special thanks to Paul, Brian, and Tom for joining my Patreon. Appreciate it. Thanks to anyone who's donated with the thanks button. I appreciate that too. I appreciate all of you for subscribing to my channel and watching my videos. I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you next time.